So if we're talking about the ego and we're talking about fear, right? And a lot of us subscribe to fear. In fact, a lot of us make all of our decisions based out of fear, based on lack, not enough, I don't have this, I want that because I don't have it. If I don't have that, then I'm not of value. Then we are basing decisions on this double-edged sword. And that's exactly what the ego is it's a double-edged sword. When it tells you, oh, you should tell that person that they're horrible because you know what, they are a threat to you, and you should make them your enemy. You should be scared of them. And then when it backfires on you and people see you as, an angry person or somebody who pushes people away, and it backfires on you, the ego reprimands you for that as well. Another thing could be like, sobriety, using substances. The ego will get you to use substances because it says, you're worthless and you shouldn't go inwards. You shouldn't go inwards and feel your pain. Use something that's going to distract you from it. Use something that's going to not make you do that. And then, when you have a hangover or you feel bad for doing it the next day, the ego goes, yeah, you are, you're trash. You shouldn't have done that. So the ego has really abusive words to use for us. And it also uses our own voice in our head so that we identify with its voice. We think that its voice is us, that it is our thoughts, and it's not. And that's why we have to give it a name. The ego is the ego. It's not my ego, it's not your ego, it's the ego. And the ego is feeding you thoughts of fear to subscribe to keep you in control. And it speaks to you in those fear-based thoughts in your own voice in your head so that you will believe it. But Spirit is speaking to us today to say that the Holy Spirit's teachings are never inconsistent like the ego's teachings. The ego's teachings are always double-sworded, double-sided, and inconsistent. Where did it say this? Yes. So there is no inconsistency to what the Holy Spirit teaches. This is the reasoning of the sane. You have perceived the ego's madness and not been made afraid because you did not choose to share in it. At times it still deceives you, yet in your saner moments its ranting strikes no terror in your heart. So when we lean on faith and we lean on abundance and knowing that the Spirit is unconditional and infinitely abundant, there is no lack of love there. This is when we become sane and we can see the reality of what the ego is trying to make us do and control us. And in that way, we can actually see the ego as just a small little child having a temper tantrum, ultimately. And it says, at times, it still deceives you, yet in your saner moments, its ranting strikes no terror in your heart because you have faith. Your ego is not going to shut up just because you decided one day to have faith. It's still going to be there, and the ego has its place in our life. It has its place in, like the last episode I was saying, it has its place, not so that we know not to cross the street when a car is coming. But that's where its space begins and ends, is just to keep our body alive. But unfortunately, the ego has this way about it that bases its experience in fear. And so it's always looking for moments to strike out of fear, right? Where are the threats? Where are the areas that, you should be fearful of? For you have realized that all the gifts it would withdraw from you in rage at your presumptuous wish to look within, you do not want. So yeah, his constant story is just trying to make you believe that there is nothing inwards that's going to serve you. So that's why anytime you sit down and try to meditate, the ego will come up with so many lists to do and thoughts that have not been rung through the mind to distract you from going inwards. It's trying to distract you. It does not want you to separate from your body. A few remaining trinkets still seem to shine and catch your eye, the distractions. Yet you would not sell heaven to have them. So, it's like everything that is outside of us, that our to-do lists, our thoughts that distract us from what's going on inside of us, our phones, entertainment, anything that is external that distracts us from what's going on inside of us is the ego's place. It's the ego's place. And so we have to be really mindful of how we are distracting ourselves, because we would not sell heaven to have that. How much fulfillment do you have on your phone? It's like, oh, I remember that day, April 11th, 2020, when I was on my phone and I had this amazing moment on my phone because I saw this thing. It's like, no, you don't remember those things even like 3 weeks from the time that you were on your phone. You don't remember the things that you see on social media as moments that you will remember forever, because they are not important. They are not the moments that we live for. We wouldn't sell heaven to have those moments. So the ultimate message here is, what would you prefer? What are you choosing, and what do you prefer, right? You probably prefer peace and inner alignment and inner being content within yourself, because bliss lives within oneself. And you wouldn't sell that for any external distraction, because that's ultimately not bliss. That's not going to give you ultimate bliss. So we have to constantly be asking ourselves, how is my ego trying to distract me today? What is it trying to distract me from emotionally within myself? And how can I learn to manage and control my ego? Because my ego obviously is in the driver's seat right now, controlling my thoughts, controlling my actions. So how can I turn the car around, stop the car, get the ego in the passenger seat, and regain control of my life, of my mind, of my thoughts, of my actions, so that I can experience bliss within my body? Ultimately, that takes time. It takes experience to sit every single day and be dedicated to that, and not be afraid, not be afraid to go in. The ego is selling you an idea of fear, that going inwards is either boring, silly, stupid, or just plain not necessary, or fearful. We need to take control back, right? And know that this is actually a very auspicious place to be, going inwards, because we actually start to learn something about ourselves. From our emotions have a lot to teach us. And if they're rising to go. They're not rising to stay, right? If I'm feeling an emotion rising, it's not going to stay. It's not permanent. It's rising because it's wanting to move up and out of my body. But the only way it's going to be able to do that is if I sit and I feel it. So an example of this is like talking to somebody I know the other day, and how they lost their friend. Their friend committed suicide. Like a long time friend from when they were young, like 5 years old. And they just committed suicide, probably a year ago, I think, 2 years ago. And they are only in phase 2 of grief, which is anger. And it's surprising them that they're so angry, right? But they know that the second phase is anger. They know that. But they said, I'm surprised that I'm only in phase 2. It's been 2 years. Like, I'm only in phase 2 of grief. And, I said to them, it's because, you don't meditate. And so your grieving process is going to move a lot slower. That's just how that works, because you're not taking time to feel. And if you're not taking time to feel, then all your emotions stay inside and they don't move to the surface because you're not willing to sit with them. They'll move, but it takes a long, long, long time for them to move because there's so many distractions that are keeping them oppressed and stuck in the body at the bottom of the ocean of your emotional waters within your subconscious. So meditation ultimately speeds up the process of grief. It speeds up the process of healing, and it speeds up the process of self-awareness. But a lot of us buy into the loud voice of the ego. Some of us not even being aware that we are buying into the voice of the ego. We're just thinking thoughts, right? We think that the ego's voice is our thoughts, and it's not. There's obviously work to be done there if you think that those thoughts are yours. Separating yourself from those thoughts can take practice, which means the best practice for that is to ultimately write down those fearful thoughts and then read them out at the end of the day so that you can begin to separate yourself from them. Because if they're just living in your mind and you're not taking them out of the mind and out of the body onto paper so that you can witness them, they will stay intertwined with your identity of who you are. So obviously this is like very, very in depth, and there's so many ways that you can analyze this and pick it apart and see what message is trying to give us. But ultimately, the simple message that's coming through today is to witness our thoughts and how we fear the act of looking within. How do you fear the act of looking within? What do you do to distract yourself from looking within? And what are the thoughts that come up when you sit down and meditate? What are the feelings that come up when you sit down to meditate that are distracting you from actually surrendering into silence, into stillness? And a lot of us are afraid of silence and stillness because our egos are so loud and they're not trained at all. And listen, this is not like, you're not supposed to judge ourselves for that. We all have the capacity to be in that space where we just buy into fear and we buy into the ego's need to control us. But if you haven't even taken a moment to realize that your ego is doing that to you, most likely you need a little bit of guidance, because awareness is power. And when you have the awareness that the ego is trying to do that, then you do have the power to change it, because then you have the power to kind of fight back against it. And I hate to use the word fight, but really you do need to be a warrior of peace. And when I talk about warrior of peace and standing up, protecting your peace, the number one essence that you need to fight against and be a warrior against is your ego. And knowing that the ego will fight against you. It will, because it's trying to survive. And it doesn't want you to have power outside of its control. It doesn't. And this isn't to demonize your ego. Your ego has a place, but it needs to be humbled and put in that place. And the only person that can do that is you and your choice to do that, right? And when you do that, you start to understand, okay, now I'm feeling like I have a little bit more control and I don't need to fight so much, and I can surrender into spirit and let go of my subscription to fear and letting go of fear, okay? It's so easy to subscribe to fear, and that's why a lot of us do it. It's a weird thing, because even fear isn't a tangible thing, and neither is love. So why do we choose to subscribe to fear? Why is it easier to subscribe to fear versus love? Very interesting. Not really sure why. I think it's more to do with society and how we're brought up to think a certain way, especially if you grew up in a religious atmosphere, right? But that doesn't even matter, right? Because we all live in fear, and people, our parents lived in fear. The generation before us lived in fear of shoulds and need to, and if you don't do this, you're a bad person, and there's a very specific way to live, and if you don't live that way, then you're just not a person of value. All of these things, it could be as simple as, no, you shouldn't be an artist. Don't dream too big. Don't reach too far, okay? Because, that's silly, and that's the voice of the ego. It's ultimately the voice of fear because our parents want us to be happy, successful people, but their belief system is that if you don't follow the playbook of life, you're not going to be successful. So don't reach too far out of that playbook. Don't reach too far. Don't go for the stars. Don't try to be an artist, a singer. Don't try to do anything outside of the norm because most likely you'll fail. And that's out of fear. Anyways, I'd love to choose a couple, 3 tarot cards today just to see a little bit more insight into this message of what is the fear that is keeping us from going inwards. So the first one is the 3 of Pentacles, and the 3 of Pentacles is reversed. And I'll read more about these. The Sun is also reversed. The Sun is also reversed. And the last one. And the Page of Wands is upright. Okay, so 3 of Pentacles. I'll just go into my book so I can get a little bit of a general sense of it. You've already worked to create balance in your life. So if we're going reverse, we're going to read reverse. So the 3 of Pentacles reversed in your reading suggests a lack of confidence or overwhelming fear of taking your work to the next level. It's time to step out of your comfort zone if you are serious about growth. You may also be feeling burned out. So remember that taking a break won't hurt your career. Allowing yourself to rest will re-energize you, so don't push yourself so hard. Okay? So, yeah, this 3 of Pentacles, like when it is upright, it's all about planning and moving forward. When it's reversed, it's like you're not moving forward, you're kind of frozen. It's like stuck in this place where it's like, I want to, but I'm not really ready to move forward yet and act, right? And if we're connecting that to the messages here of, going inwards on our spiritual journey, it could be the, frozen, not wanting to go inwards, not wanting to do the work and the devotion to have a spiritual practice, or what that means for me to truly, because everything resides inside. You could go to as many classes, as many courses, see as many therapists, as many teachers, as many spiritual guides as you want, but all of that is outside of you. Until you go inside and try to, devote yourself to your own practice, you won't actually know or strengthen your intuition. You're not going to strengthen your inner healer, your inner teacher, which is your best healer and best teacher. So if you feel frozen in this area, what it's saying is, you might need to rest a little bit before you do that. Maybe you're not ready to go inwards, but you are frozen right now in that area. And this is just a general reading, so if this doesn't resonate for you, that's fine. I'm kind of reading towards the collective, what's going on collectively. Okay, so we have reverse sun, and the sun is one of the only cards in the deck that means virtually the same thing, whether it is drawn upright or reverse. So sometimes it can be difficult to recognize that things are changing when shifts don't happen overnight, but the reverse sun can ask you to take a second look at your circumstances and celebrate the small wins. They add up in time. So if you are attuned to them, be aware of being pessimistic because things are improving. Okay, so this message is like, okay, you just gotta, even if you're doing small things, like don't think that you have to meditate for like an hour a day, okay? That's not what we're saying. We're saying like, where can you begin that's gonna help you? That's out of your comfort zone, but not too far out of your comfort zone that you're not gonna do it. So just celebrate those small wins. I sat down for 30 seconds today and closed my eyes and breathed. You know, I stopped in my car, I closed my eyes in silence, or I did a task today in silence, mindfully. I shut the TV off, I shut the music off. I was in silence for 30 minutes today just doing chores, but it was in silence. I went for a walk today in silence, like whatever it is. Celebrate those small wins, and that's what's going to add up over time, eventually helping you to train your mind to go a little bit deeper. Okay, so the sun card is always a positive card. It is always a positive card, and it's the sun heals us. You know, when we go outside, we can feel that the sun heals us. It's asking us to be kinder towards the process, and don't see it as a task, but just do small things every day that help you to kind of walk towards the light, walk towards what it is. And as long as you're holding the intention of that, it will come. It's just about holding the intention and being conscious of the intention every single day. Okay, here we go. Page of Wands. And we are upright on this one. So the Page of Wands is full of youthful energy. It may represent a child or younger person, or even a message from your own inner child, urging you to be more playful and adventurous. The young page stands still, gazing at his wand as if he is imagining the endless uses of the wand. It is unusual to see him in motionless contemplation, a posture that reveals his connection to the earth element. He is both grounded and curious, a combination that allows him to play without getting hurt. As noted on his tunic by the salamanders, creatures with fireproof skin. The Page of Wands is grounded yet playful, someone who sees the world through a lens of curiosity. Good news possibly through email, text, phone calls, or direct conversations is coming your way. Be open to creative experiences, new opportunities, and expressing yourself in ways that feel fresh and dynamic. I'm also going to read the personal spiritual side to this. An exciting time of new beginnings is on its way, but it will require a grounded approach. Try not to overcommit yourself. Take a pause before responding and make sure you have the time and energy to follow through on your agreements. Get in touch with your inner child by revisiting the activities you loved when you were young. Spending time with actual children can also be very healing for you. So the message that I'm getting through this is that we have to remember the playful side of our spiritual practice. It's not a serious practice. The whole point to meditating is to lighten the F up. Like, that's what it's about. So if you're not even giving your a chance, like you're meditating, you're all serious. Oh, I'm meditating, I'm gonna go serious. It's like you're not even giving yourself a chance to lighten up. And that's what meditation is about. So it's not, like my teacher Matan says, it's not a serious business, meditating. It's a sincere practice, but it's not serious. So give yourself that kindness and compassion to see the curiosity in your meditation practice. Like when I used to meditate for 6 hours a day, it was because I was so curious. When I first started meditating, it was the first time in my life that I ever felt true peace. You know, I wasn't like searching for complete joy. I wasn't like all the way up here. I just, you know, because my life had been like this. It was like complete joy, complete misery, complete joy, complete misery. I just wanted to feel content. That's it. That's what I was looking for. And I was like, what is this feeling? Because I had never felt it ever before while I was awake. And that's when I became curious. I was like, what is this feeling? And I went into my practice with a very positive, childlike view of the new beginnings, beginner's eyes. Like, what is this feeling and how can I be in it all the time? And what are the messages that I can gain from this work, quote unquote? But to me, it wasn't work. It was just like peace. Being in peace and being curious of the messages that I'm going to receive from spirit while I am in that safe space in my body. So this card is asking you, Page of Wands. It's about being curious and noticing all the ways in which you can use this tool of the wand. The wand represents an earthly tool. You know, it's not magic in itself, but it is a tool to gain magic, to access magic. And it's also saying while you are in this practice, you're so rooted in the earth element that you are so protected. There's nothing that can hurt you or change you from the outside. There's nothing changing you from the outside. It's coming from within. Everything that is changing you is being chosen to heal and change from your spirit within you. When we sit in meditation, we're giving our spirit time to show us what we are ready to look at, what we are ready to heal and ultimately release by sitting with it and feeling it and not judging it, but just allowing it. And that's one of the most difficult things to transition from this talk therapy of like analyzing, fixing, trying to figure something out versus letting something be what it is and not trying to fix it, not trying to push it out of the body, not even trying to heal it, just embracing it, accepting it, let it be curious about how that emotion is just flowing through your body and witnessing it from an observing view. And that's what the messages are telling us. So there's tons of messages today. I'm so happy to work with the tarot today to confirm a lot of the messages that are coming through today. But summing it up, it's looking at what is your fear around going inwards? What is stopping you from being devoted to your practice? And remember to celebrate your small little wins that you have in your practice, your conscious practice. Because if you do that, you will be the Page of Wands. You will have that playful outlook towards your practice. And work with your inner child of what is it that my inner child's trying to tell me, and be curious about what those messages will be when you quiet your mind, because there are messages waiting for you. It's just about quieting your mind so that you can have those moments to sit with it. Nice. So let's take a deep breath together and on out. Thank you for being here with me again for episode 4 of Messages with Spirit. Messages from Spirit. And I'm still getting used to the name of this podcast. And I'm happy to do this again because it's so nice to be consciously, speaking about this and sharing some of the wisdom that the universe wants to move through me to you. As you know, I have a lot of my community, my students, and my conscious community asking me to share and speak. So I am stepping up a little bit more to do that in a public space. I do that mainly in my private training groups, but it's kind of cool to share a little bit more on a public platform. And if you're wanting to have more of these talks, this week, starting tomorrow, March 8th to March 21st, is a festival called Women's Spirit Festival, and it's online. I'll put the link to the group in the description below. It's completely free, but every single day starting tomorrow, March 8th, will be a lot of different speakers from all over the world of women sharing different things, different topics about spiritual practice. My talk, I'm going to be a featured gold speaker on March 12th, which is this coming Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. And I'll be talking about the empath energy and how as women, we can harness our empathic energy a little bit more in terms of when we feel like we're taking on a lot of other people's energy around us, how can we root into our own energy more in order to thrive every single day without being, fully dependent on other people's energy as well as swayed by other people's energy? Because as women, we tend to do that quite a lot, and men as well. It just depends on, what our empathic nature is. But I'll talk more about that on Tuesday. It's something that I talk a lot about in my Reiki trainings, as well as I talk a lot about entrainment. So I'm going to talk about what entrainment is, because that's how energy moves through the body. And I base a lot of my talks on physics and scientifically how it moves through the body, but also how it can be move through the body when the mind is not involved at all. So I'll talk more about that on Tuesday, March 12th at 2 p.m. Pacific time, if you're interested in that. But there are so many awesome speakers in this festival coming up. So yeah, really excited to be stepping up more and talking more. And I hope to see you again next time when we post episode 5. Have a beautiful evening, day, or night, wherever you are, and many blessings to you.